Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and I hope you guys have been enjoying our stream of Third Age content lately. I know many of you asked me for some larger format games, so your wish is my command. Today I've got a 4 versus 3 for you, and there's a little bit more to this match than just an everyday 4 versus 3. This is actually a pretty large-scale match from the ongoing BFA roleplay that is happening on our Discord right now. I believe it's kind of in its mid stages, so a few players have been knocked out. There's a lot of large armies and some great coalitions that have begun to form. So if you guys are interested, you can find the links for the description down below. It's a pretty good time to join it if what you're after is big, large-scale battles with a little bit of context and consequence. But in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the army compositions here, and then we can go ahead and jump into the battle. Hope you guys enjoy it. Now, the first army we're going to look at today is the forces of Lothlorien. This particular army being commanded by Tundra's Fox, although it's a bit strange and roundabout. It was actually Dreezy, who's going to be in this game as well, who sent me this replay. And Tundra's Fox has brought some Lothlorien archers here. You're going to find them hidden in the tree line. He's also got some Ethel Tirith on his main line as well. Another company there of the Lothlorien archers. Some Lothlorien axes, more Lothlorien axes, and, surprise, surprise, yet more Lothlorien axes, one of the really strong workhorse units for Lothlorien. Meanwhile, over here, Sindar Blade Masters hiding out with their armor upgrade, and in behind them, we have some Lothlorien warriors. So a nice little flanking force here. If he decides to take his opponent straight on, he might be able to break that wing with the additional pressure that those units can bring to bear in that location. Over here, got some Sylvan Staff Masters. So they're going to be upgraded, so they're going to look kind of neat, a little bit snowy. It is a bit cold out today, of course. Two companies here of the Mythar Elas Gallen. Some Lothlorien warriors, Sylvan Rangers, always an important unit in a field battle, especially if you can be sneaky with them and maybe hide them in the tree line there or something like that so people don't notice them. More Lothlorien warriors, another company of Sindar Blade Masters, and Sindar Archers. This is on 0.96.1, so they're not quite the same in terms of stats as they are on 0.97, so they're not going to have like the launching projectiles that they currently do on 0.97, but nonetheless, pretty decent bodyguard pick. Let's move on now to his ally. We have the forces of Dreezy, who actually sent in this replay, so again, a big thank you to him for supporting the channel. He's brought some Sindar Archers, Lothlorien axes to the tune of about 3 companies of them, 3 companies of Lothlorien warriors, 2 companies of Lothlorien heavy spearmen. Up here in front, we got some Galathrim nobles, some Lothlorien archers. It's going to be a heavy company there, 2 companies of them in fact, and a catapult as well in support. And then last but certainly not least, got another company here of the Sylvan Rangers. Always a good unit to bring if you think that you can get away with it. In a field battle, it can be a bit risky, although in a game like this where there's lots of terrain, lots of chaos and stuff like that, sometimes units like that can go unnoticed. Otherwise, they have a tendency to get espied and focused down very quickly. In any case, I digress. Another army from Lothlorien here. This one being commanded by Eclipse 2500 of the Dark Cloud. He's brought some Lothlorien archers, Mythar Elas Gallen, Sylvan Rangers, a lot of Rangers today, Lothlorien archers, Sylvan Spears, a lot of them in shield wall formation, and they're going to be protecting a unit of Catapult. Ethel Tirith, 2 companies of the Ethel Tirith, some Lothlorien axes, pretty common feature of many Lothlorien armies. Karas Galathon's Guardians, the best, hands down the best pike unit in the game. Certainly very expensive, but damn are they strong. And then a couple companies here of the Sylvan Staff Masters. 2 companies of them, in fact. If you guys are not familiar with how the Sylvan Staff Masters work, at least in 0.96.1, they have high melee defense, they're armor piercing, low base damage, very low base damage, but the armor piercing helps out just a little bit, and they have a teensy little shield value. They lose that in 0.97, and that goes on to certain Sword Master units for the elves, but still. They can hide everywhere, which can make them excellent ambush units. Fourth now, and final Lothlorien army, this one being commanded by Cannon Fodder, who we haven't seen in a replay in a million years. So hello, Cannon Fodder. Hope you're doing well. Hope Cannonball is letting you get some sleep. In any case, he's brought some Sylvan Spears. 1 company of them there. 2 companies of the Mythar Elas Gallen. 2 companies of Ethel Tirith. Lothlorien archers, Lothlorien axes, yet more Lothlorien warriors, and some more Lothlorien archers. Sylvan Spears, another company of them right here, some Lothlorien axes in the center, and some Sindar Archers as his general's bodyguard. I think we've pretty well covered the length and breadth of the Lothlorien host on the field today. Actually, no, we have not. No, we have not. Spoke way too soon. Lothlorien warriors there, 2 companies of them, and a third, no, 2 companies of Lothlorien Axemen, and a hidden company here of Sindar Blade Masters. These guys, however, are without their armor upgrade. So, pretty cool armies. Let's go ahead and see what Mordor is bringing to the battle today and what they have that can answer this mighty host from the Woodland Realm, or rather from the Golden Wood. Across the field from Lothlorien, we have 3 Mordor armies naturally deploying together and being a little bit more defensive, hoping to use the terrain to their advantage. The first one is under the command of Froggy, who actually is pretty active on our Discord, makes a lot of scenarios. In fact, I think I've shown maybe 1 or 2 of them on the channel before, and I hope to show some more because he's really good at making them and I quite enjoy them. In any case, he has brought some Orc fodder here, because of course you do. They're cheap, and actually I believe the first 2 are free from Mordor in 0.96.1. Got some Mordor archers here as well. Nice little unit. A big old block of Mordor infantry and Mordor halberds. Very difficult to break down, especially when supported by a unit of troll drummers. I got some more Mordor halberds there. Temple Guard. Oh, so beautiful. Temple Guard with their old model for 0.96.1. Of course, in 9.7 is getting replaced with something new with the addition of Numenor. Got some Orc Javies here. Olokai. Looking all cold. Looking like they've been rolling around in the snow, having a good time. More halberds, more infantry, and there's actually some Minas Morgul Chosen, I believe, in there as well, which are a pretty decent spear unit, heavy spear company. And I think that does it for Froggy's army. Unless I'm missing something. Maybe there's some like Nazgul or something hidden in here. Oh, what do you know? We got some Temple Executioners in there as well. I knew it was worth a second look. It couldn't have just been that. Meanwhile, over here in the center, we have the ally of Froggy, that being Master Blaster. He's brought some Mordor archers, placed them very intelligently up here on this hill. Got some Temple Guard as well, in a great position to fire down into the advancing ranks of the host of the Golden Wood. Got some Orc Javelins, some Olokai. Ooh, Nazgul. Very, very sexy indeed. And this is going to be where the general is hanging out. Got some Minas Morgul Chosen, a very large number of Minas Morgul Chosen. Some Black Legion of Barad-dûr. Their push can be extremely devastating against the low numbers of the elves. Sauron's Will, whole bunch of Sauron's Will on the second line, looks like 2 companies of them, and then more Orc Javelins, and then down here we got some Orc Fodder Spearmen, an endless sea of Orc Fodder Spearmen. Got some Mordor infantry backing them up. Everybody's in loose formation, going to try and minimize the casualties there from the elves of Lothlorien. Got some Temple Executioners as well. The real killing power of any Mordor army is their elites, of course, and then another company of Mordor archers. I think that does it for Mordor, unless they've got some hidden companies, maybe some Shadow Guard tucked away somewhere. I suppose we'll see throughout the course of the battle. Move on to the third and final Mordor army. We have an army commanded by Inksvitz. He's one of our veteran players in the Discord, as well as one of our testers. He's got some Orc fodder. Of course he does. Orc archers. More Orc fodder. Some Mordor archers. A big old block here of Black Legion. I think there's some Mordor infantry mixed in there as well. Some Mordor halberds. Some troll drummers going to be instrumental for keeping the lower morale Orc units in line for an extended period. Of course, they are quite vulnerable. Troll drummers are actually a gigantic target, and they don't have a lot of defenses, so it does surprise me when more people don't try and focus them down than I see do so. In any case, just behind the troll drummers, we got some Mordor archers, and then we get into the real nice bits of Inksvitz's army. Sauron's Will. What else has he got? I think I saw some Temple Executioners in here. Second company of Sauron's Will. More Orc Fodder Spearmen. There's the Temple Executioners. Temple Guard. Minas Morgul's Bodyguard. Very useful unit for buffing morale as well. And then a couple companies here of Orc Javelins. So the Mordor armies, while outnumbered, well, quote-unquote outnumbered. They certainly have more units individually than the Lothlorien host combined. They've got some nice quality in here. They've got a lot of tools I think that they're going to need to give Lothlorien a run for their money. So despite the disparity in player numbers, this should be a hell of a battle. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And this battle is going to begin with fire and thunder on the part of the Lothlorien forces. You can see this catapult here from Eclipse 2500 of the Dark Cloud, firing from a fairly covered position, not exactly the greatest angle, but he's going after some of the massed Mordor forces under Froggy, and he's got a pretty good chance for getting some enfilade and fire with a catapult, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, will be extremely devastating. Meanwhile, he's going to be the aggressor in this fight. Mordor being a little bit more defensive, seeing as they are outnumbered by 1 army. Can't really blame them for that. Ethel-Tirith moving forward, probably getting far too close to the Orc units, however, and the Mordor archers are going to be able to return fire with a furious vengeance. Those Ethel-Tirith are extremely lightly armored. The big advantage that they have over a unit like the Mordor Archers, who have better armor and better numbers, is the fact that their range and their accuracy is better, and that's not exactly being utilized to its greatest effect here. Eclipse of the Dark Cloud, perhaps flying a little bit too close to the sun, at least as far as those archer companies are concerned. Lothlorien Axis backing them up, however, they're not even gonna feel that. 5 missile damage against their, I believe, 8 armor and like 9 shield value. They're not even gonna know that it's happening. Etheltirith returning fire, and it seems like they're going after some of the more vulnerable units here that can be a big hindrance to the Elven armies once they begin to advance, those being, of course, the Mordor halberds here under Frogi. Frogi moving forward here with some of his Black Legion of Barad-dûr, carefully positioning his reserves. I think he's expecting an Elven assault very, very soon, and it's really hard to blame him for that. There's a lot of Elven troops that have been very aggressive, moved extremely close, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what the elves here of Lorien here are planning, because they've moved, as I said, very, very close to the Mordor armies, but they're not exactly advancing, so we'll end up seeing what happens there. Over on this end, a lot of movement on the part of Mordor. Looks like maybe they're trying to check the advance. I see. Darizi was trying to move his catapult up onto the hill here, which is a great place for it to be. Gives them a beautiful view of the valley, and of course, the Mordor host arranged inside of it. A little bit of action here. You can see some Olokai under Frogi moving forward to hit the right wing of Eclipse of the Dark Cloud's army. You can see some Maethadilas Gallon are being focused down from the heights. Got some Numenorian Shadow Guard. I think each one of the Mordor armies has a company of Shadow Guard, which can be extremely powerful against some of the more lightly armored units on Lothlorien's roster. Those Olokai colliding with the Maethadilas Gallon. Sylvan Staff Masters trying to get in there, maybe give the Javelin unit an opportunity to retreat. But just as suddenly as they stormed in, the Olokai are going to try and pull out. This is a difficult maneuver, however, with the Olokai because of their impetuous trait. And you can see a significant number out of that unit of 13, rather, have decided to stay behind and fight it out, while the rest of them are going to obey orders and begin to retreat. Result, though, is that the Maethadilas Gallon have been hit very hard. The Numenorian Shadow Guard are up there as well, able to lay down some enfilading fire. This could be the end for an important unit, an expensive unit, mind you, in the Lothlorien roster. Yeah, the Shadow Guard raining down death from the heights. Meanwhile, over here, Cannon Fodder has moved into a very advantageous position. His forces are probably a little bit too tightly packed, however, especially his skirmish forces. That will lead them to being peppered down, like you're seeing here, very, very quickly by the lesser skilled, but nonetheless far more numerous Orcish bowmen. Etheltirith having taken, yeah, about a sixth of their combat potential right there in casualties very, very rapidly. Again, the Elves of Lothlorien being extremely aggressive and probably getting a little bit closer than they need to the Mordor archers. Cannon Fodder is not going to let that go unanswered, however. He's going to charge in with the Sylvan Spearmen and silence that company of Mordor archers. Easy fight for the Lothlorien Spearmen. Lightly armored though they may be, they are fierce in close combat, especially against an archer unit like this. Rest of the Elven forces moving forward. Looks like Frogi turning around now with his Olokai. Well, he's managed to disengage most of the units. So I think there's another over here as well, as maybe trying to chase down some Lothlorien warriors who are fighting them in amongst the camp. Doesn't seem to have gone well for the Lothlorien warriors, and consequently they are retreating as quickly as they arrived. Let's go ahead and slow it down just a little bit here. Olokai from Master Blaster. Maybe they were... Oh yeah, they were down here. It was the Master Blaster Olokai unit that was fighting with the Lothlorien warriors. Did a lot of damage to them too, god damn. Over here, the Elves of Lothlorien wearing down the Orcish front line, getting ready to launch what I'm sure is going to be a very bloody and costly assault for both sides on the Mordor-held hill fortifications here. Elves of Lothlorien relentlessly pounding away at the Orcish forces. Frogi, because of that catapult fire, being forced to draw back a number of his reserve companies here. 2 companies of those means Purple Chosen, and of course the fearsome Black Legion of Barad-dûr. Their pushing potential could be a really big problem for the Elves of Lothlorien, so I don't blame them for wanting to try and focus them down and minimize that threat as much as they are able before they move in to close quarters. On the other side, though, the Elves under Tundra's Fox, and I believe that's Darizi's army over there as well, being a little bit less aggressive, taking their time, picking away at the Mordor defense, just trying to wear down the mighty edifice that is this host of orcs laid before them. Ooh, I heard somebody get hit. Oh, the reserve company's being focused down, or at least unlucky enough to get tagged by one of those catapult shots flying over the hill. A little bit of blind fire. Over here on the hill, things are extremely intense. Orc archers maneuvering themselves into a position where they can lay down some devastating fire into some of the more lightly armored Lothlorien units below. Over here, Mythodilas Gallon plus that company of Sylvan Staff Masters holding down this particular venue of attack for Master Blaster's center, just so they have a little bit of advanced warning and something in there in case the orcs try to flank any elven assault that may come up on this left-hand spur, left hand for the elves. Catapults still firing away, still plucking away, trying to get whatever they can with that blind fire. Company of Temple Guard over here, if they're not careful, they might end up getting tagged by that catapult. What do we got going on over this way? Olokai from, I think this is from Froggy. Charging into some of Cannon Fodder's heavy axes. Again, running into a similar position where, or similar situation rather, where the Olokai aren't really all that disciplined. They don't want to disengage. So I think he might end up losing a decent amount of hit points from this unit, and maybe even some of the models as well. And the Mordor forces, despite their technical numerical superiority, they don't have as much quality, so they're going to need every Olokai they can get their hands on. And the exchange here with the Lothlorien axis has not been terribly even. Cannon Fodder with the rest of his forces positioning himself such that if any attack moves in, he'll be able to wrap around, either lay down enfilading fire, outflank this large body of Mordor troops. This is going to be a tough fight. The Mordor troops, they've really painted themselves into a corner. There is some advantages to this, of course, in that they're able to, as we've seen with the Olokai at the very least, quickly and to great effect reinforce areas of their line, whereas the Elves of Lothlorien are a little bit more scattered. So the Mordor forces are able to bring to bear, despite their lack of a fourth army and their lack of quality, they're able to bring some pretty powerful forces into a small area very quickly, giving them that local superiority, which they're going to have to leverage as much as possible if they are going to survive this storm. Right here, Temple Guard on the hill. I know exactly who they're going to be going after. Galathram nobles down here in the valley are easy targets for those armor-piercing archers. And they are just ripping through the Galathram nobles. They're not going to be able to stand up to this for too much longer. This is an extremely important unit for Lothlorien that they don't want to lose this early. Fairly even percentages otherwise. Ooh, but damn, those Temple Guard are just doing a number on the Galathram nobles here, and I don't think Eclipse of the Dark Cloud has really noticed what kind of danger that he's in, because he certainly hasn't taken any steps to avoid it. These Galathram nobles pretty well down to less than half of their original strength. They're going to try and flee out of there, suffering casualties all the while. What do we have over here? A little bit of lag. Mordor archers fighting on the front lines against Sylvan Spears. I don't see why Froggy would just let these units die. I'm a little bit farther back here behind his lines. They could still be of great value, especially against some of these Lothlorien archers and there's such targets. Yeah, it just seems a shame to kind of let them sit there and die. See what's going on the other side. So far, nothing. All quiet on the western front for the time being, except for the skirmishing. Orc archers facing off against Lothlorien archers. It's a battle of quality versus quantity, and in .96 generally quality is kind of the name of the game, or quantity rather is the name of the game. Nonetheless, Dreezy and Tartarus Fox are not exactly worse off for the caution that they've displayed so far. Let's go ahead, turn up the speed just a little bit here as the last of those Mordor archers begin to fall. Those Sylvan Spearmen are being targeted down by some of Engsvitz's archers, which he's brought to bear over here. And, some between the flanking fire and the straight-on arrow volleys, Sylvan Spears are actually suffering some fairly disproportionate casualties. So maybe that's the reason for leaving the Mordor archers here, just letting them be kind of cannon fodder, while the rest of the Mordor skirmish line, especially the reinforcements from Engsvitz, tries to focus them down with their arrows. That being said, Sylvan Spears, not really all that important, whereas a company of archers can probably get a fair amount of kills on their own, so yeah, I don't really know if that was worth it or not. Let's see what we got going on over here. Elves of Lothlorien look like they might be preparing to launch a bloody assault upon the Orcs of Mordor. Ooh, Froggy's very, very vulnerable Halberd Company here, caught in a bit of a crossfire. Enfilading fire from the Elves of Lothlorien under Eclipse 2500. I think a little bit of help from cannon fodder and the rest of the army under Eclipse 2500. They are just melting under that withering hail of arrow fire. Froggy needs to do something here. Pulling back a little bit would probably be a good idea. Now exactly would be the time when an extra company of archers or two might come in handy up here on the hill. But unfortunately, they expired a little bit earlier on the front lines. And now Froggy he's really kind of on the back foot. He's just sitting there weathering it. There's not really a ton that he can do, but there are a few things that he doesn't seem too eager to put in action. Numenorian Shadow Guard over here. What are they firing at? Lothlorien archers, some Mithril Elasgalad. Not exactly a great use of the very limited ammunition of the Numenorian Shadow Guard. Lothlorien archers, however, are taking a fair amount of damage. There's two companies of them here, however, and Numenorian Shadow Guard are not exactly immortal. They're gonna pardon me, they're gonna take a little over a fifth of their combat strength in that retreat. Inkspit's bringing over some reinforcements. Seems like maybe Mordor is getting ready to take to the offensive themselves, since sitting back and just taking that arrow fire is not exactly working out well for them. Froggy leading the way with some of his Morgul's Chosen. Inkspit's committing a company of his Sauron's Will to the fight as well. So got some Temple Guard up on the hill here under Master Blaster. And here they come. The Minas Morgul Chosen charging in to the first line of Lothlorien army. Sylvan Spear's going to try and check their advance. We've got over here a second company of the Minas Morgul's Chosen. They're going to drive forward towards the unprotected archer companies of Eclipse 2500. And he's just going to go for it. He's going to throw the Zethel Tirith in there. They're going to collide with the Minas Morgul Chosen. Do a fair amount of damage to them, but once that shock wears off, I think the Minas Morgul's Chosen are going to start to bring that fight back. Meanwhile, over here, Inkspit's moving in with some Sauron's Will, driving back the Elves of Lothlorien. Lightning Assault here, quickly dealing a fair amount of damage. I'm not sure what's happening here. Is this the same company? They seem to be having some pathfinding problems here, certainly. Now they've been blocked. Their advance has been blocked by a company of Lothlorien axes. We got here more and more reinforcements. Another company of Sauron's Will pouring in here to try and help out the Sylvan Spears. We got pouring fire overhead. Ethel Tirith. More Ethel Tirith. Nothing terribly dangerous. The Sylvan Rangers in this kind of situation would be probably disastrous for this Mordor push. It's a good thing that they're not nearby. The Sylvan Spears really on the verge of routing. Staff Masters have been brought in alongside the Ethel Tirith, just trying to wear down this Orcish assault. But so far it seems like Mordor has the upper hand. Furious counterattack here. The Sylvan Spears are evaporating under this pressure. Here the Lothlorien axes, however, managed to keep this catapult safe. We're getting to hack apart the Sauron's Will from Inkspit's. This is an important unit, one of the more offensively minded units from Mordor, and I don't think having them down here fighting one-to-one against the Lothlorien axes is really the best use of their talents. More reinforcements being brought up. Got some Mordor halberds, Orc javelins in support. What exactly are they tossing their jabbies at? Ah, some of the Sylvan Staff Masters. Probably not what I would have done. I think there's... Yeah, Rangers would be an excellent unit to use against a lightly armored blob of infantry like this, whereas the armor piercing would probably be better saved for units like the Lothlorien archers here, who are definitely within striking distance, or indeed even some of the Lothlorien axes. Over here we have a company of Olokai joining the fray, and I think that's going to put the pin in this Lothlorien defense, and the Sylvan Spears are just going to wither under this fire. Oh, some very ill-timed friendly fire from Eclipse's own catapults. Ethel Tirith getting hit by their own catapults, a lot of them being fricasseed alive. Meanwhile, the Orcs drive on. So I think this first line here of Lothlorien defense is going to begin to crumble very, very promptly. Let's see what we have in reserve. Froggy's still got a decent amount of his forces here. Cannon fodder still biding his time. Doesn't seem content to move anywhere for the time being as Lothlorien archers firing over this hill. Now would be a good time, I think, to take an aggressive stance, move up here, give those archers a little bit of a better firing angle, and engage this this body of Mordor forces. Down here, things are kind of okay. Cannon fodder sending in a few troops here as well against the Sauron's Will. A nice flanking charge here by the Ethel Tirith. Might help turn the tide. Ethel Tirith aren't awful. Not amazing, but not awful. But now I think is a good time to try and pressure this company. At the very least, tie down this body of Mordor troops and use some of his numbers to outflank and surround the Sauron's Will and these Morgul Chosen. Seems like Cannon Fodder might be in the process of doing exactly that. 3 companies of his Lorien warriors moving forward, a lot of shock troops. I think we're starting to see some of the rest of his infantry move forward as well. So he's going to launch a 2-pronged assault here, one into the Mordor center and possibly another into the Mordor reserves. What's Mordor up to in the meantime? Temple Guard taking point here up on the hill. It looks like somebody has taken care of the Mythardy last gallon, so that unit is now gone for good. Orc Javies here. 2 companies of them, in fact. Well, that's not going to be something that the Elves of Lothlorien really enjoy. This is a good target for those javelins right here. Lothlorien axes starting to take some pretty serious casualties there. An ongoing assault by the Orc javelins up on the hill. Some Orc archers being tossed under the bus to fight against the Lothlorien warriors, but really they're just buying for time so those javelins can reap a bloody harvest amongst the ranks of the Elves of Lothlorien. And it's those kinds of attritional tactics that can be extremely effective against factions like the Elves that are quite low in number. What we got so far? 23 to 29. The Elves of Lothlorien leading ever so slightly by about 60% now. 30% of enemies killed. And the first wave of Mordor forces is starting to lose ground as more and more reinforcements from the Elves of Lothlorien begin to pour in. And what is Mordor going to do to react to this? Cannon fodder now moving in to engage the Mordor reserves. Now that this is actually a pretty critical time to do so. These guys are sorely missed over here on the front lines, and Cannon fodder engaging them at the time that he's chosen to is going to prevent them from coming to the aid of their brothers. And that could be a big problem. However, Mordor not going to take it lying down. A big counter offensive brewing behind the Mordor lines. You can see a lot of important units here. Temple Guard, 2 units of Temple Guard. Black Legion of Barad-dûr moving forward. The Ologhai spearheading this Mordor counterattack. And what else do we have going on over here? Orc Javies, 2 more companies of Orc Javies being brought to bear, and there's still some Temple Executioners. 2 companies, in fact, Temple Executioners in close attendance to the Mordor center that could very quickly be brought to bear against the Elves of Lothlorien offensive. Troll Drummers nearby. Yep. This is the Mordor counterattack to reclaim this hill is now well and truly underway. Engsfitz has also brought forward a unit of his Temple Executioners. Cannon fodder driving forward en masse just as the Mordor units in the first wave begin to expire. But this is pretty significant. Yeah, they're not just going to take this lying down. They're moving to crush the Lothlorien offensive. I think once and for all, with the forces that they have here, they certainly have that capability. But it seems that Froggy is running into the trap that I see a lot of people do. They'll simply throw the Black Legion of Barad-dûr into combat, or trying to use them to push with their higher mass without using their shield wall. A shield wall push, a concerted shield wall push by these 2 units would, I think, break through the Lothlorien lines here. That would be pretty significant, especially given that Engsfitz has managed to come in from the rear with his Temple Executioners and engage some of the reserves, especially the Mythardy last gallon, who are well poised to do a lot of damage to the Black Legion of Barad-dûr. Considered shield wall push, plus the front line being pinned between elements of this Temple Executioner unit. That could be extremely devastating, but instead they're getting kind of bogged down a little bit and going 1-to-1 with Lothlorien units, which is never something you want to do against the Elves if you are the Orcs, if you can help it. Orc Javelins now being brought to bear against the Elven Javelins, the Mythardy last gallon. They could be in a lot of trouble here. Cannon fodder's army still in pretty good health. It seems like the Elves of Lothlorien, under both Cannon fodder and Eclipse of the Dark Clouds, have managed to break their way through the Mordor lines. Got some Númenorian Shadow Guard here. It looked like they're positioning themselves for a devastating volley against Lothlorien axes. They're going to ultimately be caught out here by some Lothlorien axes. By Lothlorien axes, I mean all of these Lothlorien units over here is what they're going to fire at. But a reserve company of Lothlorien axes charging through the center is going to shut them down. They're going to be down to about 80 men now. And the Lothlorien warriors here in the cannon fodder will be free to continue pushing forward into the rest of the Mordor support units. These two companies here of Orc Javelins, plus the Troll Drummers, are very much in danger of being swept away under the momentum of this Lothlorien breakthrough. Down here, the Sylvan Spearmen have been fighting hard for a long time, and they managed to hold on and survive that storm. Orc Javelins here under Froggy, and another company under Master Blasters, isolated now on the hill. And we're going to see the final Javelin volley be thrown by those units before they are caught up in that Lothlorien advance. Froggy, however, has some Temple Guard nearby. That might be enough to shut down this Lothlorien advance, at least for a little while. Temple Guard charging in support of the Troll Drummers. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the line, some more Temple Guard have been brought to bear. And I think cannon fodder is going to start to lose steam. Still, of course, have the Temple Executioners over here fighting behind the lines, hacking apart the Mythar Elas Gallon, and in equal measure, hacking at the back of the Lorien Axes. Olokai have pressed in against cannon fodder's Mythar Elas Gallon, and Mordor is tightening the noose and well poised to shut down this Lothlorien advance. However, Lothlorien is not done yet. Cannon fodder charging in with some Sylvan Axemasters, outflanking the Temple Executioners. They're not exactly up to the task of beating the Temple Executioners all by their lonesome, but it is worth noting that they are armor-piercing, and of course they're here in support of a unit of Sindar Blademasters. So those Temple Executioners are in a lot of trouble. Is that a second company of Sindar Blademasters? No, I think it's all just the same unit. And some more Lothlorien reinforcements coming over the hill. These ones under Tundra's Fox, who has come all the way across the map to aid his ally, as has Dreezy. And as the Mordor counter-offensive is beginning to crack the first wave of Lothlorien forces, now their allies are going to come in with some much-needed reinforcements. Got some Lothlorien archers here under Dreezy out of ammunition. Another company of Sindar Blademasters. Those of Lothlorien are in their ascendancy at this stage of the battle over on the Mordor right wing. Look down there as some much-needed reinforcements collide with the Temple Executioners. Another company of Temple Guard moving in. A lot of Mordor elites being committed to this side. And they're going to be a bit of a hurdle, I think, for the Lothlorien reinforcements. But, ooh, this is a desperate gamble from Mordor here. Shuffling in more reinforcements to Minas Morgul, chosen under Master Blaster. Black Legion of Barad-dûr. We're going to try and retake this part of the hill, crush the Lothlorien axis present up here, and maybe try and surround some of the reinforcements from Dreezy, and as well as some of the standing forces from Eclipse, and crush them under the weight of those two flanking units, plus the reinforcing elites coming in through the center. And we got over here Temple Guards holding the line against the Lothlorien units. Cannon fodder is starting to bring it back a little bit, which is very surprising. He was losing quite heavily not too many moments ago. Temple Executioners here under Engsfits are well and truly hooped. I don't think there's any escape from here on out. Mythar Elas Gallon, however, have been crippled, as have the Lothlorien axes from cannon fodder. Man, this is just a nightmare. What do we have here? Some Lothlorien archers from Dreezy surrounding part of the Mordor right wing. We got over here, Karis Galathon Guardians have broken through in the center, and this is just chaos. Black Legion of Barad-dûr have thoroughly pushed the Elves of Lothlorien off of this hill. However, I think they've maybe flown a little bit too close to the sun, and now they're a bit isolated from some of the elite support that you can see over here. Temple Executioners from Froggy hacking their way through the axes of Lothlorien and the Sylvan Spears. However, for the time being, these two units are extremely isolated. They have pushed far too deep into the Lothlorien positions, and now they're not going to be able to support each other, and that is not a good thing at all. Something that the Orcs need to do absolutely when fighting the Elves is support one another. It is absolutely imperative to win. Otherwise, the Elves of Lothlorien or any Elven faction will generally grind them down by sheer quality. Karis Galathon's Guardians are very much at home here in this kind of fight. Able to just poke holes in these Orcish units, most of whom aren't really able to reach them because the Barad-dûr Black Legion aren't being used to their full capacity with a shield wall push. Karis Galathon Guardians are going to love it. And this is ugly as well. Take a look at what we have going on over here. One company there of Sylvan Rangers, one full company from Dreezy. I think there's a smaller company over here from Eclipse of the Dark Cloud as well. And they're going to lay some enfilading fire down onto these Mordor units. Most of them are heavily armored and shielded, so they'll be able to stand up to it reasonably well. But with the addition of all these Elven infantry here and a surround, what do you know, by some Lothlorien archers and some Lothlorien axes who escaped destruction, I think that this Mordor force is, their days are certainly numbered. Over here, Temple Executioners, however, and I think some Temple Guard mixed in as well, they're having a great time. Hacking apart these Lothlorien elves, doing what they do best. Got some Numenorian Shadow Guard. A couple companies of the Shadow Guard here in the back, and that might be exactly what Mordor needs. Exactly what what Dr. Sauron ordered to drive back the host of the Golden Wood. Cannon Fodder has suffered grievous, grievous losses, although the addition of his reinforcements, he has managed to stabilize this position. Dreezy, I believe, came in as well. Some of his Lothlorien archers, though they might have been... Yeah, they definitely got pulled out and isolated by some Olokai. And now they, along with the Sylvan Blade Masters from Cannon Fodder, are being hacked to bits and smashed into the ground by a combination of Temple Guard and those Olokai. So it seems like Mordor has managed to stabilize the situation here. On Cannon Fodder's front line, things are going okay, but this is poised to turn around. You got some Temple Guard in there, still very healthy, still fresh. Some Mordor Javelins, got some Shadow Guard in the background who are focusing down this small remaining force from Cannon Fodder and his Elves of Lothlorien. This has been a bloody back and forth. Each side has gained the upper hand at least once. Let's take a look at our percentages there. 57 to 53, still fairly even. Meanwhile, over here, battle has begun between the remaining forces from Tundra's Fox and Dreezy, and they're having a great time. Basically a one-to-one fight on the line here. Most of the elites have been pulled off to deal with the flanking movement from two of the Lothlorien armies and some elements of Dreezy and Tundra Fox's army. And I don't think that Mordor has the quality needed to beat Lothlorien one-to-one, at least in the way that they seem to be doing it. Yeah, the Mordor infantry here not having a great time. Lothlorien axes hacking them to bits. See another company here of the axes beginning to encircle this mass of orcs. If the orcs had maybe tried to use their numbers a little bit more efficiently, maybe trying to envelop the Lothlorien infantry, I think they'd be doing a little bit better. Dreezy, however, has a ton of those orcs tied down. He's actually free to launch an attack on the rear of the Mordor defense over on the eastern side of things with a company of his Lothlorien axes. But let's pop back on over to the eastern side, see how things are doing. Well, Lothlorien is stalling out, at least in certain parts of the battlefield. These companies, this flanking company of Morgul's Chosen, and of course I think there was some Black Legion of Barad-dûr over there, have been thoroughly defeated, surrounded by the Lothlorien elves, pounded into submission by the Rangers. And now Lothlorien is going to have control of this hill once again, this very contested hill. That's changed hands, I think, at least 2 or maybe even 3 times throughout the battle. Olokai here driving into the center, and it seems like Cannon Fodder's days are numbered. I don't think there's really much left of Cannon Fodder at this point, just small units here that are being hacked to bits by Temple Guard and maybe some Executioners mixed in there as well as a little bit of range support from Mordor archers and Orc Javelins. Meanwhile, over here, Dreezy's reinforcements, his Rangers, have been caught out by the Olokai, and they're going to have a field day, smashing those lightly armored elves into the dirt. Absolutely not a place where those Rangers want to be. Pretty well does it for the Elves of Lothlorien on their left wing here. They've inflicted incredible casualties on Mordor. If you just take a look from horizon to horizon, there's just dead orcs and elves everywhere. But I think that's all the Elves of Lothlorien really have at their disposal at this point. There are still some companies over here. Executioners will take a bit of time to hack through the Staff Masters. Of course, there's still the Karis Galathon Guardians, but for the most part, Lothlorien has actually been defeated, surprisingly enough. And there's still Numenorian Shadow Guard here, and they're going to precipitate the downfall of the remaining Lothlorien forces. But significantly, Lothlorien is doing very well on the other side, inflicting some serious damage upon Engsvitz's army. What do we got over here? Engsvitz's main body of his troops taking a beating from the Elves of Lothlorien at range. Doesn't seem like Tundra's Fox is really in any hurry to rush into that halberd wall, and I certainly don't blame him. Dreezy, on the other hand, has thoroughly defeated most of Master Blaster's forces. Or at least is in the process of doing so. There's not really any more contiguous line here for Mordor. They're both Engsfits and Master Blaster are kind of fighting their own fight instead of fighting together, and Dreezy is taking full advantage of that. Much of Master Blaster's units have been surrounded here, even his Temple Executioners being hemmed in by the Lothlorien elves. What do we got over here? Lothlorien Axis from Dreezy, about to silence one of the more important units from Master Blaster. I know there was another company of those Lothlorien Axes that are around here somewhere. I wonder what ended up becoming of them. I suppose we'll never know. In any case, back over here, yes, indeed, Mordor being butchered at the hands of the Lothlorien elves. Lothlorien warriors charging through the center here. The Mordor infantry on the verge of collapse. Orc archers over here, and I believe these are Engsfits' orc archers, also in danger of the same thing happening to them. Some catapult fire. Not too sure from... Oh, wow. From Dreezy's catapult all the way across the field there, taking bites out of Engsfits' remaining forces. What do we got here? Tundra's Fox swinging wide with some Sindar Blade Masters, some Lothlorien warriors, and a company of Lothlorien archers. A very potent flanking force. And Engsfits doesn't really have anywhere to go. He could move forward, but he'd be moving into an encirclement. He could stay where he is, and he's still going to get encircled anyway. Now might be a good time maybe to try and fall back and as much as he is able, put up a defense here where the rest of the Mordor forces are still engaged with remnants of the Lothlorien army, but they are certainly winning. Sindar archers here being overwhelmed by just Numenorian unit after Numenorian unit. Karis Galathon's Guardians still up on the hill, down to 16. Lothlorien axes, very depleted as well, along with a small company of Lothlorien archers to the tune of 9. Yep, Mordor is in a great position to smash these units. I think now might be the time. If he moves quickly, he might be able to catch Tundra's Fox by surprise, who wouldn't, depending on situational awareness, may not be able to catch up to them in time. But now that we're moving into the final few thousand frames of this battle, let's go ahead and kick it up to full speed. It seems like, yeah, Engsfits is going to try and retreat as quickly as he possibly can, realizing this position is no longer tenable. He's going to flee with everything he's got and try and rejoin his allies on the other side, try and reform their lines and take the Elves of Lothlorien head on. With the amount of elites that they still got, maybe they have a shot at doing that. Although it really does, yeah, it's really gonna be close. Even if he manages to successfully pull off this hard reform, it's still gonna be a tough fight. Up here, the remains of the Lothlorien forces have been cut down by Nazgul, by Numenorians, and by these Olokai. And that's basically it for Eclipse's army, and that of cannon fodder as well. Well, that being said, there are also some elements of Dreezy's army, some Lothlorien warriors here tying down important units like the Temple Guard, like the Orc Javelins, maybe one or two companies even of Temple Guard. There certainly seems to be a lot of them. Let's see if Dreezy's going to be able to do this. The Elves of Lothlorien are hot on his heels. Tundra's Fox is one of his swifter units here. The Sylvan Staff Masters, well placed to cause problems for the Mordor retreat. Somebody's general just got hacked down there, not too sure who it was. What do we got? Yeah, Dreezy's forces who are already in place are going to be able, I think, to catch the Mordor forces out of position before they are able to properly reform, and they're going to be fighting in just tiny, tiny little pockets. See what Tundra's Fox is doing. Yeah, Tundra's Fox was being held up, so he managed to catch Tundra's Fox off guard, but Dreezy, however, was already in a good position to catch out some of these units as they began to retreat, and the Black Legion of Barad-dûr are getting absolutely hammered, just surrounded, caught out of position, and massacred by a sudden charge here from the Lothlorien elves under Dreezy. That's going to be the end for the Black Legion of Barad-dûr there. They are going to break off. More of Engsfits' forces being caught out of position. Mordor archers now on the verge of routing. Orc javelins holding back some Sylvan Staff Masters. Mordor halberds caught out as well, being outflanked by a group of Sindar archers. This looks very bad for Mordor. Engsfits' formation is just so incredibly broken at this point. And he's being forced to attack here and expose his flank and his rear to fire from the Elves of Lothlorians and a potential encirclement. So our Blade Master's doing all right. Black Legion of Barad-dûr here supporting the Mordor halberds. Well, Black Legion do have them surrounded. There are some Lothlorien warriors over here as well. I don't think these units are going to be able to hack their way through the quality of the Lothlorien elves, at least not before some of Dreezy's forces are going to be able to come in from the rear. Tundra's Fox has now managed to catch up with some of his Sylvan Rangers. I think this is pretty well the end of the game here. Elves of Lothlorien, I don't think can be stopped at this point. A scattered defense still being put up on this hill. Some of the Mordor elites trying to come to the aid of Engsvitz's forces, but they're, again, just being separated by the Elves of Lothlorien, not able to fight together. And it's going to cost them. It's going to cost them this game, I think. What do we got here? Some Olokai or Master Blaster running around doing their thing. Got a decent amount of Temple Guard here. What else do the Mordor players still have in there up their sleeve? 46 Temple Executioners, a bunch of Númenorian Shadow Guard. Maybe there's hope. Sylvan Rangers from Tundra's Fox being sprayed down with the Zork Archers. Over here, the Lothlorien warriors about to rout the Black Legion of Barad-dûr. And there goes the Lothlorien general, slain by a combination of Mordor Archers and Númenorians. Blade Masters over here butchering the Mordor halberds. More reinforcements moving in. Yeah, if these Temple Executioners can get over here quickly, maybe shore up this wing, but I don't think it's going to matter. The Black Legion of Barad-dûr are now broken. And soon after, the Mordor halberds are going to follow suit. And again, Mordor is left without a battle line over here on their left wing. What these Olokai are doing? They could certainly hold up these Lothlorien units long enough for the Orc Archers to disengage. Some miscommunication perhaps there. Númenorian Shadow Guard as well. Yeah, this is an opportunity, I think, for Mordor to shut this down with their arrows and their body-piercing units, and of course the Temple Executioners, but they're not really taking advantage of it. Ultimately, it may not end up being that big of a deal, as Lothlorien has broken through, I think, over here in the center, and what remains of the Mordor forces on their right are being overwhelmed, even though they were previously winning this engagement. There's still some Nazgul back here. Some opportunity for the Mordor forces to, I don't know if they would win the game, but certainly to use the momentum of the Elves of Lothlorien against them and do exactly what the Elves of Lothlorien have done to them at several points throughout this match, that being surrounding isolated units and breaking them down as quickly as possible, trying to even out those percentages. The Mordor is perhaps resigned to defeat at this point. Coming out of here, Temple Executioners certainly at a disadvantage, exhausted, whereas the Elven units are in a lot better shape and fighting downhill, of course. Where are those Olokai? Well, Lothlorien Archers over here have ended up fighting the Olokai. Probably not the best place for them to be. Olokai, I think, are greatly weakened at this late point in the game. Bleeding from many wounds. Very outnumbered. There goes one of the Nazgul getting hacked down by a Lothlorien warrior. 96 to 80%. A very bloody battle. Very bloody indeed. But ultimately, one that was in favor of the Elves of Lothlorien from the start. That being said, I think there was a few opportunities here for the Mordor forces to really rally together and potentially bring it back and maybe pull victory from the jaws of defeat, but they just weren't able to capitalize on those opportunities as they presented themselves. And it seemed like there was a fair amount of communication issues and a few instances of some of the players, especially over here on Mordor's right wing, throwing away some units, like leaving the Mordor halberds to simply just get shot to death instead of trying to reposition them, letting the 2 units of Mordor archers just get mulched by a single unit of Sylvan spears, things like that. Mordor needed to be a little bit more conservative, I think, with their numbers and what they decided to commit and where, and ultimately the inability of Mordor to hold this wing, and part of that was caused by how wasteful they were with a few of the units, and caused more and more strength to be bled off onto this right wing to try and stabilize things. And ultimately, Mordor was able to, at least for the most part, bring it back. Some reinforcements from Dreezy and Tundra's Fox certainly made their lives difficult, but they were able to, I think, win on this wing. but it left them so undermanned on the other side, and just ultimately really compromised, especially in terms of positioning. We saw that with Engsfitz. He had to try a hard retreat because he just didn't have the troops any longer to go toe-to-toe with the Elves of Lothlorien. And yeah, ultimately, the amount of damage the Elves of Lothlorien were able to do on the Mordor right wing, I think, is what killed them in the end. And of course, there's the issues of communication and letting some pretty important opportunities go by and that sort of thing. So, a really good game, devastating for both sides. Mordor put up, it was just a heroic defense, and despite the errors that I pointed out earlier, it was quite well led. Mordor counterattacked at several points and really bogged down the Elves of Lothlorien in fights of attrition that they weren't ultimately able to win with most of the forces that they had at their disposal. They managed to shut down 2 armies plus a ton of reinforcements from the other side. Ultimately, it was too cheap of a price for the Elves of Lothlorien, and they're going to come out as the victors today. And there goes the final Mordor general. The last Nazgul being hacked down. We're down to the last few hundred frames here, so I'm going to go ahead, turn things up to about 6 times speed. And there you have it. Really, really good game. I love fights like this. They are just, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but they are absolutely epic. Very interesting approach from the Elves of Lothlorien. They kind of had like 2 different ways of going about things. On the Mordor left wing, the Elves of Lothlorien were extremely aggressive, probably to their detriment a little bit, but of course, it does make for a much cooler game to watch when people are willing to be that aggressive with their armies and are willing to push up into a superior defender position and things like that and try and get the ball rolling. So that was really cool to watch. It did result in higher casualties, of course, but you know, of course, the Mordor players were not really able to prevent themselves from being bled dry on that wing, nonetheless. So really good game. Well played by everybody who was involved, and a big thank you to Dreezy for sending in this replay to me. Again, thank you for supporting the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you'll I hope you'll join me again for whatever comes next. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.